This is Faith Levine from Graceful Fitness. This is your no flexion abdominal workout. It's not comprehensive by any means, but it focuses on torso stabilizer muscles through your abdominals, working your obliques and your transverse abdominals, as well as your multifidi in conjunction with those muscles. And this workout is inspired by my stepmom asking for some Pilates exercises that don't involve crunches or curl or flexion. So you're gonna start here on your back. Let your ribs and your pelvis just anchor down to the mat. It's, to quote Baron Baptiste on that, don't try hard, try easy. So instead of thinking anchoring down, see if the anchoring can just really be in the weight of those bones and the weight of that body, in those body parts. Notice if your ribs kind of push up towards the ceiling. If that's the case, you're tensing your back muscles. If you can just soften, might not be possible right now, but if you can think of softening your ribs, softening your breastbone, letting those muscles soften down into the floor to release. You have a little bit of space under your low back, so you're in neutral pelvis. And again, you don't have to try hard for that. Just try easy. Just see if you can maybe even wiggle around a little bit until you rock your pelvis, move it around until you find that position where your low back isn't flat down into the floor, but has a little bit of lightness or lift. My hands automatically come to my bottom ribs and my front hip bones because I'm gonna use those two bony landmarks as feedback to the stabilization of my torso. From here, gently anchoring through the ribs and through the pelvis, let your right leg lift to tabletop. Notice if anything changed through that anchoring, if anything changed through the muscular connection between those two bony landmarks, ribs and pelvis. Set it back down. Switch sides. Just keep alternating. And check in with where your head and your neck is at. So your gaze, your eyes, your nose, and the tip of your chin are pointing straight up towards the ceiling here. If you're pulling your chin down towards the chest, you're going to be causing some tension through the neck. That's not really necessary here. You're going to start to alternate midway if it feels like it's time to take it up a notch there. So starting to alternate midway, causing to recruit even deeper musculature, deeper engagement through the abdominals. You can also choose to go a little bit faster with this. So challenging the stability even more. Both legs are going to stay up. Reach your right leg long, low, and away from you, and pull it back in. Can you do that without moving the other leg at all? You're going to add on here a little bit. As your right leg reaches away from you, just gently, gently push the left thigh into the left palm and bring it in and switch sides. You are still anchoring through the ribs and through the pelvis, stable through the torso. Your long leg does not have to go that low. You're finding your range, you're challenging your stability ability. The lower the leg goes, the more challenging it will be to stabilize through the torso, particularly the pelvis and the low back. So you find that for yourself. Challenge it though, really push your edge and see right where that is. As soon as you start to destabilize, you've gone past your edge and need to back off just a little bit. Hug your knees into your chest, give it a little bit of a rest there. Bring your legs up to tabletop. Your arms can be down by your sides, or for feedback anywhere on your torso, you might want to have your hands on your front ribs to just remind them to soften down. Let your right leg open away from center and then draw it back in. Other side. So maintaining that right angle from the thigh to the shin bone, you're just letting the leg move open and bring it back in. It is inner thigh work, but that's kind of secondary to the oblique work. So you're working your side waist here to keep the pelvis grounded equally on both sides. This is not a twist through the spine at all. It's also not a big stretch through the inner thigh. So you might not get out to your maximum range. That's totally fine. I definitely don't. If I went to my maximum range, I would start to roll off to that side and destabilize the torso. Not the objective here. Putting those two together, open, reach long and away, and draw it back in. We're going for 8 here. Think about with each right leg, so with the start of each set there, Can you go a little bit bigger? Challenging your range of motion, challenging your stability ability. As soon as you go outside of that stability ability, as soon as you pass it, rein it back in a little bit. You've found your edge. Stay right before your edge. Hug your knees into your chest. Again, roll it around a little bit if it feels good. We're going to stay with that theme of circling the thigh bone in the hip socket. Stretch your left leg long, gently pull the toes up. Feel free to give your right leg a stretch first. Bend and flex. Point the ankle, roll it around a little bit. Even just wiggle it around, doesn't have to be super specific. Just to loosen it up a bit there in the hip socket. And then lengthening the leg up towards the ceiling. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight here if that's not within your range. Ground down through the left leg, take the right leg across the body, swoop it down around and back to center. Across the body, swoop it down around and back to center. Perhaps bring your left hand to your left side waist there and hip bones and just check that that side is staying grounded. Reverse direction. So again, it's not a twist, you're grounding down through the left side. 2 more like this. One of the few exercises, one of the few Pilates exercises where I'm into momentum here. Give it a little bit of a swoop. Pull the knee in. There's different ways that exercise is taught, but that's my favorite way to do it. There is a version with a big twist through the spine, but my favorite version is where you go work the stability. Point and flex. As far as leg circles go too, it's sometimes taught where the circle should be really even across the body and away from midline, how wide you go. Naturally, we have a lot more range of motion away from midline in the hip socket, and so I kind of honor that. It's not a completely even circle for me, and I'm fine with that. Lengthen the leg up towards the ceiling, cross it, swoop it down. So as I go open to the left, it's going to open wider than it went to the right. Switch. Open wide, cross a little. Open wide, cross a little. Finding your range of control, your stability ability. Last one here. Hug it in. We're going to do just a little bit of twisting. Bring your legs back up to tabletop, arms by your side. Take your legs over to the right and let your left hip lift. Use your abdominals to draw it back to center. Take it over to the left, let your right hip lift. So the opposite of all that super stabilizing work. Open. If you want to take it further, extend the legs, bend, and back to center. Open, extend, bend, and back to center. If you want to take it further, as you extend, reach them long and away from you on a low, long diagonal, bend, and back to center. Side. So you're reaching over that corner, that left foot corner of the mat, back to center. You can certainly stay with just the bent knees, no extension version. Your abdominals should feel the majority of this work. Whenever you're doing abdominal work, should always feel primarily in the abdominals, not in the back. If you're feeling it in the back, you need to back off. You need to make the exercise easier, or you need to take a break. You need to check in with your form. Hug your knees into your chest. We're going to finish on hands and knees. So come on up and over. I feel like there's a little bug falls out of my ear. Coming onto hands and knees here. Long through the spine, shoulder blades wrapped forward. Lift the abdominals up. Don't just kind of assume that in this position they're going to engage correctly. See if you can really think of lifting them up. Gravity is a strong force here. Lift them up away from gravity, lift them up against gravity, and then reach your right leg and left arm out. Easy through the neck. Bring it back down and switch sides. Notice, just like all that supine or face up work that we just did, except for those last twists, nothing is changing across my back, across my hips. If you want to make it harder, reach out, pause, and see if you can lift your left shin and foot away from the mat a bit, like a little hamstring curl, and bring it back down. So you're just decreasing the size of that lower body stability point. Feel free to pad your knees more if you want to take that little curl, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to have the pressure down. I had a client once say that Oh, Pilates is just doing a dozen things perfectly at once. And yes, if that's true, then try to teach and demonstrate Pilates is like doing 25 things perfectly at once, which I sometimes fail at. All right. Only one single flexion moment here. If you so choose, you could pull back to child's pose, reach your arms long, spread your fingers, push the mat down a little bit, and then drop your forehead down.